Hi, I'm Krista and welcome to yoga. Just a reminder before we begin today, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Today's practice will be a yin practice and we'll be working with dragon lunges today. If you're not familiar with dragon, I'll just quickly demonstrate what this looks like. So one foot will be forward and the other leg is stretched back. So a low lunge, essentially. We'll be doing a couple of different positions in this dragon lunge. If this bothers your back knee, make sure you have something nearby for this practice. So a blanket, you can slide a blanket under the back knee to give it a little more cushioning, or some people like to make the blanket a little bit thicker and position it a little bit differently. So positioning it more under the shin just to keep the knee off the floor. So you can play with the position of the blanket there just to give you some support and some cushioning for the back knee so it feels okay for you. Especially if you're unable to stretch the back leg back and you're more up and down on this knee, you're putting more pressure directly on the kneecap, that may not be very comfortable. So make sure you do have something nearby for this practice today, a towel or a blanket, just something to slide under the knee to give you a little bit extra cushioning if you need it. So let's get started. Sit up tall, close your eyes. And begin to become aware of your breath. No need to change it in any way, just notice the flow of your breath. How does it feel to breathe? Every class I teach begins with the breath, and we carry that awareness of the breath throughout the entire practice. A really important part of yoga. Notice the 4 phases of your breath. Notice how the inhale feels. Notice the slight retention. Notice the exhale. Notice the pause after the exhale. Just continue to follow the breath, being aware of those 4 phases of the breath: the inhale, the slight retention, the exhale, and the pause after the exhale. Now with your attention on those 4 phases of the breath, we'll add a count to this. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold your breath for 2. Exhale for 4. Hold the breath out for 2. So 4-2, 4-2 breath. Inhaling 4, holding 2, exhaling 4, holding the breath out for 2. Continuing to follow the 4 phases, but now with a count. And when we add the count, it's bringing a little more mindfulness to this. Inhale 4, hold 2, exhale 4, hold 2. You can change the pace of that count. You don't have to go at the pace that I was working with there. The pace can be whatever feels appropriate for you. One more round of breath. And just let the counting go for a moment. Open your eyes. Extend your legs out in front. Keep your legs still. Just straighten your legs and relax. So Yin Yoga, we're finding stillness and steadiness in these poses, sitting in these poses for an extended period of time with no extra movement. I'll talk a little bit more as we go through this. There are some times when movement will be acceptable. Obviously, if you're in pain, you need to come out immediately, but generally we try to stay still for as long as possible in these poses. And when we release the pose, we spend some time in stillness as well, just feeling the body, feeling the release of the pose, noticing any sensations that we feel. That's just as important as the poses themselves, taking the time to notice the sensations after. So now we'll come into butterfly. Bend your knees, but don't bring them in too close. So just a comfortable distance. Bring the soles of your feet together and drop the knees open. So if you are familiar with other forms of yoga, bound angle would be here with the heels closer to the groin. Butterfly and Yin Yoga, the heels are further away. If you have a prop available, I do recommend sitting on something here. So either a thin yoga block, or if you have a blanket, you can fold the blanket and sit on the edge of the blanket. So I'll use my block. Sitting on the edge of your prop, just to tilt the pelvis, soles of the feet together, and the knees drop open to the sides. Let's get my timer ready here. And then from here, take an inhale, lengthen your spine. And as you exhale, bring your chin towards your chest and just start to round your body forward. This is a rounded, passive, relaxed fold. I'll just start the timer. Close your eyes. Settle in and go back into your breath, the 4-2-4-2 breath. Do your best to stay still here in this pose. Passive movement here is possible, so when your body starts to warm up, you may find that you start to come deeper. That's okay. Just try to avoid fidgeting. Try to avoid any muscle activation in this pose. So this is getting into the hips, obviously. We're opening the hips here, but we're also getting into the back. So with a rounded passive fold in Yin Yoga, we're making more space between the vertebrae. We're getting a nice stretch into the spine itself. You will feel muscles stretching in your Yin practice. We can't isolate the connective tissues away from the muscles. So you will feel the muscles stretching, but the tissues that we're targeting here are connective tissues, the bones, the ligaments, the fascia, the more dense plasticky tissues of the body. And those take longer to be affected by the practice, so we need to sit in these poses for a longer period of time in stillness in order for it to be effective. Do your best to stay still. Keep breathing, 4-2-4-2 breath. Try to relax your neck unless that bothers your neck. So if it doesn't feel okay with your head hanging forward, you can keep your head and neck in a neutral position instead. If you have neck issues, it's probably better to work with a neutral head and neck position rather than dropping the head forward. However, if it does feel okay to drop the head forward, then go ahead and do that. You'll get extra weight into the stretch, so a little more tension in the stretch, and it can be a nice release into the cervical spine too, as long as that feels okay for you. So always listen to your body in any yoga practice. Yin requires even more, actually, requires even more awareness. We're not moving the way we are in a yang yoga practice, but setting up these yin poses, really important. It's really important that you pay attention to how you're setting your body up and that you're paying attention throughout the entire pose, feeling whatever you feel and knowing when it's time to come out, or if you haven't gone deep enough or you're in not quite the right position. So developing that awareness in your practice takes time. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself. Do your best to stay still, but remember, you are welcome to come out if you need to, especially if something starts to hurt you or it just doesn't feel right. Absolutely come out of your pose immediately. Keep breathing, 4-2-4-2 breath, allowing that passive movement. So using the prop here, when I recommended sitting on the edge of something, it's just to tilt your pelvis forward so you can more effectively target the lower back area. A lot of people, when they're sitting, they kind of tilt back a little bit and the lumbar curve starts to flatten out. When you're in that position, it's really difficult to come forward and round the lower back and get the stretch into the lower back. So if we can boost up the pelvis a little bit, tilt the pelvis forward, we're better able to access that area. So anyone can benefit from sitting on something, from sitting on the edge of a prop, a block like I have here, or a folded blanket or a towel. If you are working with a folded blanket or towel, make sure that it's a little more firm and not a really soft, fluffy towel or blanket. You want it to be nice and firm so it has the support for you there. So keep breathing, 4-2-4-2. slowly make our way out. Take your time to restack your spine. Ease yourself back up. Use your hands to bring your knees in. Just stay for a moment with the knees bent. Now extend your legs out in front. Take your hands back behind you and relax. Let your legs relax. Notice whatever you feel. So again, this part is important. Noticing the sensations when you come out of these poses. So now we'll move into shoelace. Some of you may still want to work with a prop here, and some of you may not. So I'll just take the block away, but keep your prop handy. You may want it for this one as well. So the half version of shoelace is here, with the right leg crossed over, trying to stack the knees as much as you can. Right heel comes toward the left hip. So you can stay there if that's as far as your body wants to go today. You can go a little bit further, bring your left leg in as well. So you're trying to stack the knees as much as you can. The heels come toward the hips, but adjust your position so it feels right for your body. If this knee is up, that's okay. It doesn't have to be down. They don't have to be stacked like this. Notice how it feels for you. That's the important part of Yin. Noticing the sensations and the feelings, not worrying about what your pose looks like, noticing how it feels. So find your position, whatever that is for you, and just close your eyes. Take a few breaths sitting upright in whatever pose you're in. Then reestablish the 4-2-4-2 breath. Notice how your body feels. Notice if you're engaging your muscles. Try to relax the hips as much as you can here. If you feel sensation, that's great. Sensation is what we're looking for in our Yin practice. It can be uncomfortable. That's a good thing as well. Discomfort is something that we welcome in Yin, but we don't want pain, and we don't want it to be too strong to where you're kind of fighting the pose. If the sensation becomes really intense, sometimes we start to tighten up our muscles, and we don't want to do that. We want to try to relax as much as possible. So we are looking for sensation. That's a good thing. We also need to be relaxed. So you're welcome just to stay as you are. If you'd like a little bit more here, you can just allow your body to come forward a little bit, or as much as you like, and that can get you a little bit deeper into the hips. So to go where you want to go, listening to your body. So when I give you the cues for these poses, I give you the general approximate shape of a pose, and then it's up to you to tweak it to find the right position for your body where you're feeling something. So we're looking for sensation back in the right hip area, the right glute area, somewhere in there. So if you're feeling some sensation, you might even feel it on the outside of the right leg, this general area. Generally speaking, I talk in general terms in yoga because everybody is different. So remember that your body is not the same as anyone else's. And when I give you this general area that you may feel it, if you don't feel it there, if you feel it somewhere else entirely, that's okay too, as long as it doesn't hurt you and as long as you are feeling something. Generally in this target area, so in the right leg, the right hip, the right glute area. Do your best to stay still, relax. Once again, be careful with your neck here. It is okay to let your head come forward as long as that feels appropriate for you. We were just in butterfly with the head drop forward, so if your neck needs a bit of a break, you don't have to let the head come forward. You can just keep the head lifted if that feels better. So always do what feels right for your body. 4-2-4-2 breath. Inhaling 4, holding 2, exhaling 4, holding the breath out for 2. You are welcome to slip away from that breath at any time if you get tired of counting, or if you would just like to spend more time focusing on the sensations in the body. That's okay. This is your practice. I give you these breathing techniques to help you focus your mind so we can find stillness and avoid fidgeting in the pose. But you don't have to force yourself. We don't force anything. We don't force the body. We don't force the breath. So you don't need to force yourself to stay with that certain breathing technique. If you'd like to let that go for a bit and just focus more on the body or just focus on the sensations of the breath, that's perfectly fine. If your mind starts to wander, come back to the count for a little bit just to help you to refocus your attention. And let's come out. Slowly unwrap your legs, take your time. Extend your legs out in front, relax. Notice whatever you feel. So this is important. Notice the sensations. Go to the other side. So left leg comes over, heel toward the hip, bottom leg can come in if that feels okay. Take your time to adjust here, set yourself up, find the right position for your body. I always wiggle a little bit and just make sure that I'm in a good position, that I feel something in this left leg or left hip, and that I'm not in any pain. So I always make sure that my position is the right position for me before coming forward or before settling into the pose. So stay upright for a few breaths, close your eyes. Return to the 4-2-4-2 breath. So you can start your pose with the 4-2-4-2 breath just to help you settle in, help you focus. And you can stay with it, or at some point during the pose you're free to let it go if you like. But always go back to it if your mind starts to wander. Your mind will wander. That's a given. Your mind is going to wander during these poses. That's okay. And we're trying to notice when our minds have drifted off and try to come back to the breath, back to the body, back to the pose. And if you'd like to come forward, go ahead if that feels okay for you. Notice how your neck feels. Relax and breathe. Feel the pose in your body. All yoga is great for helping you develop your body awareness, but probably even more so in Yin, because we're sitting in these poses for an extended period of time, being aware of the sensations, noticing how it feels when we get into a pose, when we come out of a pose, as we're holding a pose. Lots of time here to go inside, to focus and to feel. Use your breath. Feel the sensations in your body. Start to fidget. Notice if your mind has drifted off, bring it back. Fidgeting generally is a sign of a distracted mind, and that's something we can use the breath to work with. Slowly make your way up, so pay attention to your transitions, the way you get into a pose and the way you come out of a pose. Slow, mindful transitions. Extend your legs. No extra movement here, so try to avoid shaking your legs or anything like that. Lean back for a moment Let your legs relax and just notice whatever you feel. Notice the sensations. Notice the release. Come into half frog, and then we'll move into the dragon series. So half frog, the right leg comes back, and you can open this knee up as far as you're able to here. Left leg can either go right in front or out a little bit to the side. It really doesn't matter. The focus here is the back leg. So taking this leg back and open as far as possible. If your leg doesn't really enjoy this, if this bothers your knee or your ankle or your hip, and you feel it's just not okay for you, come into half butterfly, and you can go back into this position with the right leg instead. If possible though, take this leg back. You'll get a different rotation in the hip here than you do in half butterfly. And that's what I'm looking for here, is getting this different rotation in the hip, this internal rotation. So right leg back as far as you're able to. Left leg, wherever it wants to go, is fine. Start by facing the left leg. Take an inhale. And on your exhale, just soften. You can close your eyes and just let your body go wherever it goes. Let your left leg relax. Relax the right hip. Once again, notice your neck. If it feels okay, the head can drop. If that bothers your neck, then make sure you keep lengthen your neck instead, but try to keep the lower back rounded. If you need your prop here, I should have mentioned that. If you need your prop here for this one, you're welcome to use your prop as well, sitting on the block or the blanket. So finding your position, settle in, just like we did in butterfly, passive forward fold, rounding into the back. So we're getting into the spine, we're getting into the hip. Relax and breathe. Let your body deepen naturally. If that happens, if your body starts to travel forward on its own, let that happen. Try to avoid any intentional movement. There are times when movement is appropriate. However, when you're in pain, as I've mentioned a few times now, if your pose just doesn't feel okay for you, if your body is telling you very clearly it's not happy, absolutely come out of the pose. So pain means you come out of the pose right away, or sometimes you can just make a little bit of adjustment in the pose and then you're okay to stay for a little bit longer. So that's up to you to decide. Once again, listening to your body, finding the position for you, knowing if it's time to leave the pose entirely, or if you can just make a little adjustment to your position and stay a little bit longer. Another time when it's okay to add a little bit of intelligent movement is if you've lost sensation completely, or you feel you're just really not in the optimal position. Then it's okay to do a little bit of intelligent, mindful movement just to shift your body into a better position. So the movement we want to avoid is non-essential movement or fidgety type of movement or mindless movement. Mindful movement can be okay, but it's better to take a little more time at the beginning of your pose to adjust, to find the right position, and then settle into stillness, rather than rushing into the pose, realizing partway through you're really not in the best position and then having to move into a better position. So always listen to your body, take your time to transition in and out, find the optimal position for you. It takes time, it takes practice. So if you're really not sure, that's okay. Notice how you feel, settle into the pose, and then if you need to make adjustments partway through, that's fine. Eventually, you'll learn a little bit more about how your body moves and how to transition in and out of these poses and get yourself into the optimal position. When our bodies warm up and release, though, it is possible that you may need to find a little bit of a different position to get more sensation out of the pose. Again, these are things that you learn with practice. When you're paying attention to what you're feeling, you know if it's not really benefiting you so much anymore and you need to make a slight tweak to your position to get more benefit out of the pose. Working with the breath, 4-2-4-2. And then slowly coming up, so begin to bring your body back up. Shift over a little bit to the left, so you can carefully bring your right leg out in front. Lean back for a moment. Close your eyes and notice. Notice what you feel in the right hip. Notice what you feel in the back, your whole body. Notice the sensations. We'll go to half frog on the other side. So left leg back. If you're able to, the knee can open up as far as you're able to. Right leg just goes wherever is comfortable. The back foot can be flexed or you can have it straight, whatever feels good for the back foot there. So don't worry so much about the position of the back foot, just take it to a position that's comfortable. So opening up this knee as much as possible. Remember the option to come to half butterfly instead with the foot on the inner thigh if your leg is not happy here. Start by facing the right leg. And just allow your body to come forward. You can close your eyes and just let your body go where it wants to go. Relax into the pose. If your body starts to drift, you may start to drift to the outside of the leg or the inside of the leg. That's perfectly fine. Allow that passive movement so your body doesn't have to be right over your right leg here. It can go wherever it wants. The focus here of this pose is not the back of the right leg. It's not a hamstring stretch. We're focusing on the back leg, the left hip, the groin area, and the lower back. So you might feel the hamstring stretch to some degree here, especially if you have tight hamstrings, but that's not the focus of this stretch. As I mentioned before, we can't isolate the muscles completely, so you will still feel muscle stretch, but the intention is to get into our connective tissues, into our joint structures themselves. So this leg, this right leg, stays nice and relaxed. We're just rounding gently over in the general direction of the right leg. Be aware of your neck. Some people find it's really nice to have the neck relaxed and the head hanging forward. For other people, that may not be suitable. So make sure you're listening to your body. Do what feels right for you. You can always drop the head for a few breaths and then you can lift your head a little bit if you need to. If you do that though, just make sure that you don't come up too much to where you're losing the rounding of the lower back. So if you drop the head and then you decide to lift your head, make sure it's just the head that's moving and not the rest of your spine, unless you need to come out, of course. So continue, 4-2, 4-2. Allow your body to come further as your body warms up. You may find the upper body comes deeper. You get closer and closer to the left leg or the inside of the leg or the outside of, or right leg, sorry, or the inside or outside of the leg, wherever your body goes. Use your breath. So this will be the last pose before we get into the dragon series. Dragon poses will be doing shorter holds, but we'll be cycling through a few different poses. Up slowly. Shift over to the right so you can carefully take your left leg out in front. If you were quite deep in that pose the way that I was, if you had your head right down on your leg or your upper body right on your leg, that's okay. You're still getting the benefits out of the pose. You may not feel quite as much in the lower back, but you're still getting the meridians, you're still targeting the energetic system, and you are still getting benefits out of the pose. Relax and notice whatever you feel. So now we'll come into the dragon series. So if you need the blanket under the back knee or under the back shin, go ahead and find that position now for the blanket where it feels okay for the back knee. I'm just going to change to a different timer here because these will be shorter holds. And we'll start with the right leg front. So you can bring the right foot forward, tuck your toes and slide the left leg back. So using the blanket under the back leg if you need to. So starting with the knee generally over the ankle, but it's not a definite position in this one. We're not really in a weight-bearing pose here. So you can have this foot really wherever feels best for you. But generally we try for that alignment of the knee over the ankle. But just let your body go where it wants to go here. So this back leg is stretched back as far as you're able to. The more you stretch it back, the more you get into the front of the back hip here, into the groin area, the hip flexor area. So settle in. We'll just stay in this position for the first part. Close your eyes and go back into your breath. The back toes can be tucked or untucked, whatever feels best. If the toes are tucked, you might take a little bit of pressure off the back knee. So just experiment with that, see what feels best for you. If you need blocks under your hands here, that's another option as well if you can't quite reach the floor. Work with your breath, 4-2-4-2 breath. It's not an easy series. If you need to come out sooner out of any of these poses, please do. Make sure you're listening to your body. If you feel you've gone too far, ease off a little bit. If you haven't gone far enough, then get yourself into a deeper position. We'll be switching very soon here, coming on to a little slightly different variation. So from here, just come up, if that feels okay. The higher you come up, the more back bend you get, and the more stretch you get into the front of the back hip here, into the hip flexor area. If that's too much, you can lean forward a little bit if you need to. So these are a little more yang in nature, a little more active yin poses. Keep breathing, 4-2-4-2. Another 30 seconds in this position and then we'll switch. Take your hands back down. So for this one now, this one will be getting into the front ankle. So we'll be changing the position here. You can either move yourself forward a bit, or I find it easier just to wiggle the front foot back as far as you can. And then you're leaning forward, so you're getting into the front ankle. It's okay if the heel lifts. You can let the front heel lift there. So this is again about the ankle. So you want to have the knee coming past the toes here for this one. It's not a weight-bearing position on the knee, so it's okay to have the knee coming over the ankle here. Generally, we try to stack the joints, but for this one, the knee goes past the toes if possible, so we can get into the ankle. Keep using your breath, 4-2-4-2. This will be the last one on this side for now. We'll be coming back into this in a moment. Coming out very slowly, take your time, no rush. Slide the right leg back, just come to child's pose for a moment, relax. Do those 3 on the left side. So using the prop under the back knee if you need to, the blanket. So starting with the front knee over the ankle or thereabouts. Back leg stretch back as far as possible. Toes can be tucked or untucked, whatever you like. If you need something under your hands, go ahead. Otherwise, hands are just on the mat. And we're just coming a little forward here onto the left leg. Relax and breathe. 4-2, 4-2. Your pose might be a little different on each side, so remember that. On the last side, I had the toes tucked under on the back leg because it felt better for this knee. I have some issues with this knee, so tucking the toes felt better. On this side, I feel a little better with the toes untucked. So make sure you experiment and do what feels right for your body. Using the breath here will help you a lot. 4-2, 4-2. A few more seconds and then we'll come up. And coming up, hands to the knee if you're able to. And again, you can add a little bit of a back bend here if it feels okay. Watch the head though, we're not taking the head back. Just leaning back so you get a little bit into the back, but you also get that really nice stretch in the hip flexors here in the front of the right hip. If it's too much, then don't go there. Just come forward. Keep breathing. Let's check our time. Another 15 seconds. If you can, you're welcome to leave sooner if you need to. Remember that always. And coming down. So now just readjust here. You can work the left leg back, or you can shift yourself forward, whatever you need to do here. You're trying to get to a point where you feel as if this heel is almost lifting, and if it does lift, that's okay too. And then you're coming forward, trying to bring the knee past the toes, so you're getting into this ankle here. So when we came higher in the dragon, the weight was more directly over the pelvis and even a little bit back. With this one here, our weight is coming forward over the ankle, so we're targeting the ankle, not so much the hip area. A few more seconds. If you can, come out sooner if you need to. Coming out slowly, take your time. Bring your left knee back and just come into child's pose. Relax. A few more breaths in child's pose, and then we'll go into a slightly different variation. Coming back up now to your knees. Now the right foot comes forward, but to the outside edge of your mat, so your hands are on the inside of your right leg. Slide the left knee back. You can use the blanket or some support under the back leg there if you like. You can stay right here. You can stay up on your hands, or if you're able to, come down to your elbows. You may need something under your arms. You may need a pillow or a blanket or blocks or something under your arms. So settle in. Try to keep the right foot flat, but don't force it. If your foot starts to lift, that's okay. Remember, we're trying to relax into these poses as much as possible. Keep breathing. 4-2, 4-2. Few more seconds. In a moment we'll come into a twist. Not yet though, we're not quite done with this one yet. Alright, so now turn your left forearm parallel to the front of your mat and come into a twist. Your right hand can go wherever you like. It can come to the knee or the hip, whatever feels right here. Try to keep the right foot flat once again, but let it do what it wants to do here. So find your position, relax. Almost finished. And let's come out slowly. So turn back to center. Come up. Slide your right foot back. And we'll just come onto the belly for a moment to relax before we go on to the other side. These are quite challenging poses for the body, so take a moment to just relax. Let your whole body relax. And as you're relaxing, try to notice, be aware of what you're feeling in your body. And coming up, so now we'll do those two poses on the other side. Left foot forward to the outside of your mat if possible, sliding the right leg back. So we'll start by either being on the hands or coming down if you're able to, down to the elbows. You can have a blanket or some sort of support under your arms. Relax, breathe. We're staying 1 minute in each of these positions. If you find that's too long, that's okay. You don't have to stay for the whole time. You can just do a little bit and then come out, and then maybe next time you practice this, you can stay a little bit longer. Always listen to your body. More seconds, and then we'll move into the twist. All right, coming into the twist, right arm parallel to the front of the mat. Take your left hand wherever you like. Relax. So for this one, we're trying to keep the foot fairly flat here. There is another variation where we can angle the foot out and roll and let the hip drop, but that's not the variation we're working with here. But don't force yourself into anything, so you don't need to force the foot to stay down. If it's lifting a little bit, that's okay. We're not going into the other variation today. A few more seconds. All right, and slowly make your way up. Take your time. Slide the left leg back. Come onto your belly. Relax. Hands under your forehead. And let your legs relax. Notice whatever you feel. One more pose. We'll just come into a back bend. We did some forward bending, so we'll just balance out and do a back bend. So just slide your elbows back so they're almost at your shoulders, almost just slightly in front of the shoulders. Take an inhale, lift your heart for a moment, tighten up the glutes, just make it a little bit active. Then exhale, relax. You can let the shoulders shrug up here if you like. Relax the glutes. Close your eyes. If you find that's too deep, slide your hands further away. And for some of you, just being on the belly with your hands under your forehead might be enough of a back bend, so you don't even have to go any higher than that if it doesn't feel okay. Four, two breath, if you can. Notice your body, notice your breath. Coming out slowly, just let your elbows slide out to the sides. Coming down, bring your forehead onto your hands. Stay still, relax, notice whatever you feel. We'll just come right into Shavasana from here. So stay with your head at this end of the mat and just roll yourself over onto your back. No need to flip yourself around, just roll over. Extend your legs, open your arms out to the sides. Find your comfortable position. If you like, the legs can go wider, the arms can go up wider. If that feels okay, if you'd rather bend your knees, that's fine. But spend a moment with the body spread out, or at least the legs and the arms straight for a few breaths. And just notice whatever you feel. Notice any sensations. You can stay there. You can change the position into something that's a little more comfortable if you like. If it feels better to bend your knees, that's fine. So find your comfortable position for Shavasana. Eyes closed. Just allow your breath to flow. Notice how you feel. Bring your attention to your body, your breath. Let your breath deepen. Bring some movement into your fingers, your toes. Give yourself a stretch if that feels good. Roll to your right side when you're ready. Stay for a moment there. Relax. Help yourself to seated. Sit up with your eyes closed. Bring your hands together at your heart. Notice how you feel after that yoga practice. Not just physically, how do you feel? Thank you so much for practicing with me today. Namaste.